Ever scroll through social media and like get totally overwhelmed by all the celebrity relationship stuff? It's wild out there. Today, we're doing a deep dive on one of those couples that everyone's talking about. Kanye West and Bianca Censori. You've probably seen the headlines, right? Whispers about a split, and it hasn't even been 2 years since that super secret wedding. We're talking about Kanye here, the guy who always seems to be making headlines. He was with Kim Kardashian, remember? And then, boom, Bianca enters the picture. She went from working at Yeezy to, like, becoming his wife incredibly fast. It makes you wonder what's really going on, you know? So today, we're digging into those rumors, trying to figure out what's really going on behind the scenes.
It's crazy how quickly things can change, especially when you're in the public eye.
Right. 1 minute, a couple is like the poster couple for relationship goals, and the next minute,
It's all falling apart.
yeah, and it was TMZ who first broke this whole thing. Their report says that Kanye and Bianca are telling people close to them, like, it's over. But the thing is, the report uses those classic unnamed sources. So is this, like, a PR stunt? Or is it someone from their inner circle just gossiping? What do you think?
Honestly, that's the million-dollar question, right? It just shows you how complicated this whole celebrity-media relationship is.
Does make you wonder.
Is it a controlled leak? You know, something they're doing on purpose to control the story?
Like damage control.
Exactly. Or are we actually seeing some real problems, something more genuine?
And then you add in all these other details, like Kanye is supposedly planning to move to Tokyo. It's almost like he's on this journey to, find himself.
Interesting way to put it, find himself. Do you think that's how people see it because of his personality, you know?
I mean, yeah, it's Kanye, right?
A lot of celebrities retreat after a breakup, going somewhere familiar.
Yeah, but for Kanye, it feels different, right?
Yeah.
Almost like it feeds his creative process or something.
Exactly, like it's fuel for the fire.
It's like his every move is a headline waiting to happen. But you're right, that whole idea of retreating to what's familiar, Bianca's gone back to her family in Australia, and Kanye's off to Tokyo, a completely new place. It's like two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely, and it makes you think about how much pressure there is on celebrity couples, the expectations from society. I mean, think about it.
They were married less than 2 months after his divorce from Kim Kardashian was final.
Exactly. That kind of timeline puts a ton of pressure on any couple.
And then you add in the constant scrutiny from the media. It's like living life on fast forward, no time to breathe.
No time to just be a normal couple, really.
And speaking of Kanye's time in Tokyo, did you see those pictures of him at that Jamaican restaurant? Twice in one day. He even signed their wall.
Oh yeah, classic Kanye, right?
Uh-huh.
Always the big gesture. It makes you wonder, is this just him trying to stay in the headlines?
Or is it just like a genuine reflection of where he's at right now? It's hard to tell.
Either way, people are talking, which is often the goal.
Yeah, it's like he's always putting on a show, even in his personal life.
And we, the audience, we eat it up. But, you know, there's something else going on here, something a little more serious.
Yeah. There have been reports about Bianca's family, and they're apparently concerned about her lifestyle with Kanye. They even called it controversial.
That word controversial is interesting. It's so vague, you know? Open to interpretation. What are they actually concerned about?
That's true.
And how much of this is just because it's Kanye, who's no stranger to controversy himself?
Right. It's easy to forget that these are real people with families and their own lives outside of all the headlines.
Absolutely. And it makes you think about Bianca, especially since she hasn't said anything publicly since she started dating Kanye.
Yeah, her silence is almost deafening, especially compared to how outspoken Kanye
That's
is.
such a stark contrast.
Kanye's never been afraid to share his opinions, even if they cause a stir.
It makes you wonder what her silence means, don't you think?
It really does. Is she just trying to avoid the media circus?
Or is there something more going on, something about the power dynamic in their relationship? It makes you think.
Yeah, it's like they're living two totally different lives. One of them's always in the spotlight, and the other's trying to find some quiet space.
You just hit on a really important point, control. When you look at famous couples, there's often this imbalance, right? Like one person's fame kind of takes over everything.
And the other person, they almost become invisible.
Yeah, and it can be hard to figure out who they really are.
It's like their relationship becomes this big story, and they don't even get to write it themselves.
And you start to wonder what happens to their own sense of self and all of that.
And maybe that's part of what Bianca's family is worried about, like she's gotten lost in Kanye's world.
It's definitely possible. Remember those photos of Kanye and Bianca in Tokyo? They were at a supermarket with a couple of his kids.
Oh, yeah, and then they were shopping, like at some Super expensive place. Right.
Yeah. Right, but those weren't the photos that got everyone talking. It was what Bianca was wearing. Or, well, not wearing, I guess.
Yeah, those outfits, or like the lack of outfits, have kind of become her thing since she started dating Kanye.
And it sparked this huge debate, right?
About self-expression and what's expected of women, and of course, how much of this is Kanye influencing her style.
Exactly. It's like people are trying to decide if she's being empowered or if she's being controlled.
And it feels like women in the public eye are always judged on what they wear, way more than men are.
Totally. Are they dressing for themselves, their partner, or for the cameras? It's a double standard, and it's still a huge problem.
Yeah, it's like we can't handle a woman expressing herself,
Yeah.
especially if she's with a powerful man.
And then there's this other aspect to think about, the whole parasocial relationship thing.
What do you mean?
Like, we develop these relationships with celebrities even though we don't actually know them. It's weird, right?
I get it, though. We watch their every move, read all the gossip. It feels like we're a part of their lives.
Exactly. And we project our own ideas onto them. When a high-profile couple like this breaks up, it can be jarring for some fans.
It's like their perfect little world has been shattered.
And suddenly, we need explanations, someone to blame.
So we focus on the superficial stuff, like clothes and Instagram posts.
But relationships are messy, right? Even when they're lived out in public. A single photo or headline will never tell the whole story.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but you're missing half the pieces.
Exactly. And that's the problem with getting caught up in celebrity gossip. We forget that we're only seeing a tiny part of their real lives.
Yeah, it's like we're watching this big budget movie, but we forget there's a whole team of writers and directors behind it.
That's such a good way to put it, because it reminds us that these celebrities, these personas we see, they're often carefully constructed, you know?
Like an image they're putting out there.
Exactly. And that image, it serves a purpose. It keeps people entertained, it sells stuff, it keeps them relevant.
And then you have to wonder, what happens when that carefully crafted image starts to crumble?
Right, or when two different images clash.
Exactly.
And that's what I think is so interesting about Kanye and Bianca. You have Kanye, who's built his entire career on pushing boundaries, on being provocative.
He's the king of controversy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then you have Bianca, who, from what we can tell, seems to value her privacy.
So how do those two approaches to fame and public life work within a relationship?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's almost like mixing oil and water.
They might blend for a little bit, but eventually they separate again.
Yeah, and maybe that's what this whole split is really about. Two very different people, two very different comfort levels with the spotlight.
It makes you think about the compromises people make in relationships.
It does, especially when one person lives their life so publicly.
There's a lot at stake.
And let's be honest, fame comes with a price, right? Privacy, freedom, the ability to mess up without the whole world watching. Those things can disappear when you're constantly in the public eye.
It makes you wonder if it's worth it sometimes.
It really does. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this whirlwind of a relationship, what have we learned?
We've gone through the rumors, the photos, the silences. It's a lot to unpack.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we can't believe everything we see, especially when it comes to celebrities.
Like that old saying, don't believe everything you read. Except now it's, don't believe everything you see on social media.
Exactly. And beyond that, I think it's important to remember that these celebrities, they're real people too, with real emotions and real families and real problems, just like us.
It's easy to forget that when you only see the glamorous side of things.
For sure. So maybe we can all try to be a little more skeptical, a little more empathetic.
It's about finding that balance. Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the ups and downs of Kanye and Bianca's relationship, the power of fame, and how the media shapes our perceptions. And remember, there's always more to uncover, more to understand, and more to discuss. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.